Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for tapping in, turning on, tuning in. I was sitting here for a little bit and I was giggling to myself. And then I'm like, let me just hit record because I'm over here having all these conversations in my own being, like just totally free, and I'm like, just let it be that. And I was just thinking about like when I pick certain locations and spots, and it'll be in the oddity of places, right? Because that's what made me giggle to myself, right? Because like there's so many places I can pick to do all of this, like when I want to record and stuff like that. But I start getting into like my own psychology. And I'm like, well, where does this stem from? And it's just so funny because it's like any location, any place, any house, any thing, I'm notorious for like hiding spots, like since I was a little girl, right? Like I could hide in closets for hours, I could hide under things for hours, I can hide behind things for hours. I can go off and just and be silent too, right? I remember one time um I w- went away, and there was this house that we stayed in, and it had this like wall, and I found behind the closet wall like these smaller walls, right? And that like led into like a passage, and I'm just like, oh my god. This is like the spot. So I must have disappeared for like a while and stuff like that, and then they come in and they're like looking for me, and I'm just like quiet. That's what you do when you're a weird person. You just make it even more weirder, right? You don't even answer nobody when they're calling you. And and whatever. And so anyways, to make a long story short, when I was found, they're like, oh my gosh, like I come and this is not where I expect to be finding you. And it's just, sitting in this small corner space and just like surrounded by things, and um putting things around me, and maybe it does come from my own trauma and drama and wanting to feel, just think about that, like as a child, not feeling safe, right? And so to surround yourself, like I put these things, right? It's all psychology, right? Um, because it makes you feel some type of way, right? Maybe protected and stuff like that. So careful with that because that's like borderline fucking hoarding and stuff like that. I'm so grateful for like my daughter and stuff like that to teach me, and just having so many different losses in life, right? Of having to learn to let go, and that's the story we sold. But anyways, that's what I was thinking to myself before I hit record, and I was just laughing because like anyways, I'm comfortable this way. So but just think about it, like you can go, like, so maybe if you're somewhat like me, like you have all this open space and you choose like this corner spot where you feel like protected. It's in this you choose this space, like, for no particular reason except that that's just space, right? I don't know, maybe it's neuroticness or whatever, but either way, hello. It is what it is, what it is, right? So hold on one second. And I'm giggling now because I'm thinking about it. Like I had this whole entire huge ass like bedroom that was like just this open, gorgeous space, and I'm in this corner of this hole of this. It was just so cool. I'm big on like secret hiding spots, hideaway walls, like things like that, castles and things like that, because yeah. That's my type of thing, right? Like underground passageways and attics and all that kind of stuff. Like, I have been that type of explorer forever. Like, I don't know life without exploring things like that. Like, yo, I got in trouble when I was a kid for, okay, so in the house, like, because this was, blame it on, um, that movie if you want, like, The People Under the Stairs. So my mission was to find every secret hidden wall. So there was one, right? But it was in between the roof and like, I don't know, it's just going up the ladders to go up to the roof, and there was like this wall, and they made me little for a reason, right? I was in between the walls. Oh my god, luckily it didn't fucking cave through, go through, and all this kind of stuff too. It was disgusting, it was dirty, it was filthy. Um, Never again, you know, but yeah, oh, I just think about it now. I'm like, I'm not going into no space like that. But you didn't care, like, you know what I'm saying? So celebrate, right? Stop finding holes in your success or reasons to remind it. You deserve to celebrate yourself and your accomplishments, right? So silence the noise. Noise creates illusions and problems out of nothing. Go deeper into your heart so you may find the truth. Absolutely, right? Divine masculine energy. There's excessive masculine energy that it needs to be balanced in order to feel harmonious within. Take a step back and find a more feminine approach. This is the unifying, right? Of the divine masculine energies, the divine feminine energies. What do we mean when we say that? What do we mean? Think about it. Like, don't just say things and then be empty, right? No, what substance, what value? What does that mean? Right? So it's like yin and yang, right? Energy, right? This yin being the feminine, the yang being the masculine, right? And then look at the yin goes within and the yang goes without, right? So it's just think about these different polar opposites, right? That are asking each other to join. It's like cold and hot, right? It's like feeling and action, okay? And it's the combining of these two, right? The infusion of these two. It's like working on your yin energy, which is how you feel, everything that's real, right? Real talk. Like, you could say whatever the fudge you want. You could act however you think you want to act, but what you feel is the real Holyfield deal. Period. Right? That's it. Right? So working on that, and then working on that, depending upon where you are in your emotions, right? Hopefully in a healthy, wealthy, stealthy place, so that you can now take action with those healthy, wealthy, stealthy emotions. And this time do the motherfucking tango and the merengue and the cha-cha and the salsa and all the dances, so that you can keep on commanding and creating that which you desire, want, and really would make you so happy to create and manifest for yourself the best, right? Why not? Why not give it your best, right? Celebrating your success. For those of you, you're celebrating your success. But fuck that. Yeah, you should. Like, for real. Like, why not? Like, you've come so far, right? And you're only going to keep on getting better and better and wetter, which brings me to this. This is the message. A woman's pH balance is so sacred. I know that I have men that come on here, and your pH balance is so sacred too. Don't think that don't matter and that don't apply to you. That what you take in, right, is also what you give it out. Like, think about that. Like, the taste, right? Honor your scent, your juices. And I'm not doing this to scold anybody and stuff like that, but it's coming up, and that's what's up. So I'm going to be free to speak it however it comes out. And if you feel a type of way, or you feel offended and all that, well, then that should tell you your position, and to heed this message, right? Because there's something more that wants to balance out within you, that, right, you should be like, especially as a woman, right? Like, I can only speak from a woman's perspective. I'm not gonna go over here and pretend everything and what's to be a man and all this kind of stuff, but you should taste good, men, right? Everybody wants to put something in somebody's mouth and all this kind of stuff, but like, do you even taste good? And I'm not even like, you get what I'm saying? The same thing back and forth, right? Like, honor your scent, your juices. Like, oh my God, it should be finger tasting good, delicious, that people want to, but we have such, and then it's like, I wrote it, glamorizing it with slutty imagining, and I'm not slut shaming, I'm not fucking knocking things down, but the diminishing of our sacred divine feminine energies. I can only speak from the feminine aspect in this world, right? But like, the glamorizing of this, the slutty imagining, of like spreading yourself so fucking thin every which way. You think your pH balance ain't stink? Like, that's spiritual, that's energetic, that's fucking energetic. That's just like a lot of people, I hear it too. Oh, I got a yeast infection. I got this, I got this. Where do you think that shit comes from? Your dietary. And that comes with your sexual activity too. That's just real talking. I'm not slut shaming. I'm not, do what you want to do, but don't complain. Right? If you don't honor the temple that which you are in every single kind of way. Like, the last thing I want to do is be with somebody that's with everybody fucking else. Like, I don't want that. I rather, and I do, close my fucking legs. And if that makes me, because I've heard it already, right? I've heard it already. We're gonna come back to this. Where were we? I don't even remember. But I know we were talking about the imagining, right? The chicka chicka picka chicka boop boop. Cut. There's no cuts here. Okay. But seriously, like connect. Okay. So yeah, right. No, but this whole thing with our bodies, right? Like, it's sacred. Like, don't diminish the sacredness to you. And if you want to be promiscuous, then own that shit. But don't be like looking for love in all the wrong places, thinking you're gonna get it that way. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't have it both ways. Like, it's just not, like, it's not gonna happen that way. You think it will, but it won't. And then what does that lead to? Other stuff, right? Bitter, not better. Evil lying, hating, debating, fighting, not peaceful, can't sleep, thinking in ways that you don't need. And unhealthy be, right? And especially as defined feminines, right? Your juices should be flowing. Even if you're not having intimacy, your juices should be flowing, glowing, growing. Like, and if they're not, think about your diet, think about your exercise, think about your sexual intake. How many partners? Think about with whom, how many people are they sleeping with? Be real with yourself too, right? Any STDs, any, like, putting all these things into reevaluation, because like the message that I'm receiving is like, honor your scent. Seriously. And there are home remedies too, things that you can do, that you could just start implementing, teas that you can drink, things that you can take, change your fucking diet in every kind of way, especially if you got dairy up in there. It's just, it's not, picking at your nah, it's just, I'm figuring out my pH balance. So it's learning your pH balance. I feel like that's a big message, right? Learning your pH balance is going to be important to reestablishing a certain kind of level of harmony and feeling like being good in your authentic self, right? Being good in your authentic self, knowing that you're enough, right? Not doubting who you are. Oh, wrong one. Not these, but like, really, really, really like, yeah, like, right? Like, really feeling complete and whole, but healthy, wealthy, stealthy too. You know what I'm saying? Like your pH balance can't be off and everything be groovy. Something's off. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, right? And it's not, and I'm not, for those that take offense and all this kind of stuff, and you're still here and you're listening, then you know that your highest of self is really absorbing this, and that's good. Because it's not meant to be an attack. It's not meant to insult. It's not like, it's meant to just, let's harmonize. And it begins with our own pH balance, whether you're male or female here. Like, you gotta taste good. Think about it like that. Like, I want to know what I'm tasting tastes good. Because that's what you're getting from me. Like that. Okay? So everything, and that goes with energy too. Energy exchanges, conversations. Like, our conversations gotta taste good. Like that. Like, it gotta taste good, right? Right? Because if not, you're just getting nowhere. So you gotta look at it from a higher perspective, right? Be aware of what you're doing and how that fits into the bigger picture. And ask yourself what new actions you can take to elevate higher, right? Not wasting your own fucking time, right? Not engaging in certain kind of thing, knowing that you are enough, that you taste good, right? New beginnings, new beginnings. Time to start something new and trust the magic of beginnings. It's in your hands right now to change your story, right? To change your story. Divine masculine, new beginnings, right? The actions that you take, right? So how are you applying that which you feel to be the truth, right? How are you applying this in your actions, right? How are you doing that happy ending, right? So knowing that every path that you take, every step that you take is leading you to your happy ending. What is there to worry about? Even if you stumble, right? You don't fall. And even if you fall, you get right back up after you dust yourself off, cry it out, scream it out, whatever you got to do. But you keep on too, right? So though it may not seem like it's now, you will accomplish far more than you could ever freaking imagine. Your story will have a happy ending. Like, so now this is confirmation, right? Feel it in your inner vibrations. Know this, right? This is the penetration, right? I'm working on my pH balance, and there goes my degree, right? PhD, happy ending. You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't glamorize shit. Be real with yourself. Let the world glamorize whatever, and let people be fooled and duped and all this kind of shit if that's what they want to do. But you want to be participatory, right? You take your participatory consciousness onto a whole new fucking level. It's like, all right, I see. Now what's your chess move? Right? The way that you sometimes we gotta think it before we speak it, and that's coming with a big Sagittarius quality of putting the mouth disease, right? Saying way too motherfucking much, right? Just knowing that like a happy ending, but beautiful things take time to grow. So patience, right? There's no need to rush. Allow yourself to grow at your own pace. Right? That's good. Rising crescent, it's time to set a new goal. What are you doing? What are you doing? Ay, ay, ay. And don't settle. Don't accept your current circumstances as the best you'll ever have. Don't be afraid to ever start over, right? Higher view. Be aware of what you're doing, fits the big and how that fits the bigger picture, and ask yourself what new actions you can take to elevate higher, right? That's it. Period. Right? We are gonna read again story number 3. I'm going to see how this all applies, right? Bad timing, everything will come to you at the right time. You be patient, your time will come, right? In regards to anything that you're still being impatient about, right? This pH balance, you got to work on that, right? You got to honor your set. You got to honor, right? The meeting of the souls, too. Someone will enter your life, and someone may have already entered your life. What are you doing? Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, I just had to make sure that she was okay. She's okay. She's just being a playful kitten. Right. You should definitely go check out my blog at Mystic Muse blog. It's my second YouTube channel. So it's a separate YouTube channel from this one, which is at EnchantressTheeBabbler. So this one is solely vlogging. So if you're interested in learning and diving in with me a little bit more, definitely go check out EnchantressTheeBabbler's at Muse at Mystic Muse vlog, MYSTICMUSEVLOG, right? Everything is in the description box, so you can always check that out there. and definitely go subscribe. That would be awesome if you do. Yeah, so definitely if you check out vlog number 5, it shares the story of Eden coming into our life, and how that came about. And you can learn about our new cat, our kitten, that you'll see here in the videos whenever she shows up. Whenever I'm on higher stuff, it's harder for her because she's still small, so she'll be biting my feet and and stuff like that. But whenever I'm like lower to the ground, that's when she's like always fudging around, you know. Um, yeah. So, anyways, you can definitely check that out. There's 5 vlogs up. There's over 30 vlogs created. So there is so many to share with you throughout 2023. And I'm excited for my own vlogging journey. And so I invite you into my vlogging world. I am new at vlogging. And the more and more that I continue to vlog, the more and more I feel like pieces of me are like having undone stripperella style, like free. You know what I mean? So it's a new studying, a new journey for me too. You know what I mean? So I But yeah, so what new journey are you on, right? What happy ending do you feel that you want to receive? Or just the gratitude, you know what I mean? To find the resolution in your conflict, right? Differences, right? Differences in things that are um being created right now. Like, but think about the disharmony within your own being, right? And how to look at the divine feminine energy, right? Coming up too, right? The balancing act, right? Your feminine energy is out of balance and can leave you vulnerable. Learn to use your feminine power wisely, right? And so, yeah, that's that, right? All right. So we are going to read from here again, Magical Fairy Tales, an enchanted collection of retold tales. So far, if you are new here, and you have not seen the other 2 videos, there's a part 1, which is Snow White's story, along with another card read and reads in between and chit-chatting and babbling in between that too. And then part 2 was Red Riding Hood. And so that one is also already posted, so you can check that out. It'll be shared in the description box too. And then now, story number 3 is, I believe, Rumpelstiltskin, if I said it right. So if you like read-alongs and you love being read to, I love to read, and so here we are. There's no edits. This is how it'll be. So it's freestyle. I haven't read any of these stories, so this is the first time I'm reading it with you too. So, it's new for me too. And I do pull cards, and we do chit chat. I do say whatever the fudge I want because that's how it is. If you are not okay with stuff, freedom of speech, you go huppity the fuckity uppity, you know what I mean? So, or just zip it, you know what I mean? Respectfully. Yeah, that type of thing. But whatever messages come through, it's how it be. But I had to say what I had to say. I don't take it back in any kind of way, because whatever that is said here is it's good for the whole, for the greater good of the all. And that I know it's from my heart. And so that is how I stand 10 toes down, deep, tall, I'm tiptoeing. Okay. So yeah. All right. So when I come back, we'll be more set up for this. And if you like these kind of stories and things like that, do let me know which of the 3 stories so far are your favorite. If it's gonna be Rumpelstiltskin, or you like Red Riding Hood better, or you like Snow White, or you like them all. Like, whatever the case may be. I like them all. That's where you get my Pisces moon type behavior, like not being able to pick and just enjoying it all and enjoying the mix, you know what I mean, and taking it all in, that type of thing. But yeah, so if you're interested in knowing what book this is and where I got it from, in the description box is also my Amazon shop affiliated, my Amazon affiliated shop, right? I don't know. Anyway, but there I share with you things that I buy that I like, things that I recommend, solely only that which I love, use, and have. And so you will see different shops of different list of ideas and things that I share with you. So this is in my book lover shop, I believe. I don't know the names. I always forget titles and names, but it's where I have a thing for books. So anyways, the link is in the description box. So you would click that link and you would look for book lovers, something with books, and you would click in there, and this book is in there. And then, yes, of course, I receive a small commission with that when you do. But hey, thank you for doing that too. You are motherfucking awesome. Made that ripple effect into your world magnetize and quadruple. Oh, quantify. I like quantify than quadruple, because quadruple is only limiting it to like quadruple. We want to quantify it, which is infinite. And so infinite abundance and prosperity to you, my friend, for doing such wonderful things. Especially if you're learning it and you're getting it from me. Like here, why wouldn't you use the link? You know what I mean? Like that's some other type of shit. Like, if you don't. But either way, the link is shared there, and I made it easy for you to know exactly what to get. So it's in my Amazon, and there are a lot of things there. If you see certain things on here that you like, and if I got it from there, obviously not everything that I get is from there. So you're not gonna see everything that I have from or that I show is gonna be from there, because no, especially like crystals and things like that. But other things are, and so when they are and you like it, I share it. And if there's something there that you see that maybe I haven't shared and you are curious and want to know, then that's how you can communicate with me. Be like, hey, what is that? Blah, blah, blah. And if I know what it is, I'll share. You know what I mean? So that's the way that works. Communication is always a two-way street, but I give you as much information as possible in the description box. So always check the description box, right? For all information of communication that is vital for you to know, that is important for you and I to further connect, and what other things are available and things that I recommend or feel that you should know. And then there's always a master link, and in that master link is all the links and all the ways that you and I can further connect on every single platform that is available for you and I to further connect on. Okay? Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, I'm gonna advert. Like, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? That type of attitude is what we are amplifying up in here. Okay, my friends? Alrighty, so we are going to read. I haven't heard this story in a long time. We have it with newfound um conscious eyes, right? Receiving different stories from in different enlightenments now, right? You're in a different space, you're in a different place, you're in a different mind space. So let's see how deep of a dive you are going to travel into these fairy tales that you are quite familiar with, I'm sure, in this conditioned environment for sure. And if you're not, welcome. Let this be your first time you're hearing the story, and may my narration be everything wonderful for you and your ears to receive as I read the story in my own creative way. With lots of giggles in between. You know what I mean? So yeah, so focus on your own game. We're staying in our own lane, right? Doing this, and in due time you will set up for yourself an extraordinary life, as you should, right? As you stand your ground, hold your own power and never give it away. Not everyone is there to support you, and that's okay, right? That's okay. Everybody doesn't need to be there to support you, but you need to be there to support yourself, period, right? Because you're creating your own amazing story. Some situations are more than meets the eye. While it may appear like an ordinary event, it could be magic unfolding. Don't just judge a book by its cover, right? Right? The labyrinth of life, just labyrinth, right? This labyrinth of life. I'm not going to read it like you're lost, but this is the labyrinth of life, and the layers that you travel, and the dimensions that you cross, and just it's all this infusion, right? So you using these trials to harness your own inner strength and come out stronger and wiser, as you should. Right? All right. So I have to pause for a moment and I'll be back. Thank you for being here. And we are back, right? So also, like, another thing, right? It's like learning to silence our minds, right? And to kick it back with the counteract, right? Of whatever it is that you need to do to achieve, right? Be still, be quiet, right? Follow your inner knowing, right? So like any kind of jealousy, right? Move away from that shit because there's a new beginning for you. Right? If you are experiencing that from other people, right? Move away from the, like, even your energy of sensitivity, right? Being able to pick up on it, it's still none of your business. Look at it like that. It's none of my business. You know, nobody's addressing it. Nobody's like, whatever. It's just none of your business, right? And if you're the one being jealous, move away from that too, right? Because there's a new beginning here for you. You don't need to be jealous that which you secretly admire then. And you shouldn't have to be in such scarcity mindset that you would hate on another for something that you admire. Like, that's just petty. It's not necessary. I shouldn't say petty either, because that's just triggering. You know what I'm saying? So like, you know, just live your passions and give yourself the self-love that's needed, right? Initiate the process, allow for the initiation, right? Have a good time during this process, right? For your own progress, right? It could feel overwhelming. We understand that, but the path is gone, right? The past is gone, so we can release all guilt, release all ties, we can release all sabotage, right? Right? And I am heard feeling that. I am heard. I am validated. I am validating myself. Dropping all arrogance too, right? Realizing that you've always been innocent. You're conditioned into this environment so that you ever really have a choice for your participation, but now you do in your consciousness, right? And you the search for peace in this mystery, right? Here we have this gentle okayness, like, you know, being a lot more gentle, a lot more kind to your vessel too at this time. Look, gentle, quieted heart, right? I get what I want. Say that. I get what I want. I'm my own friend. I love to create. I love making love. I am love, right? I have love. I believe in myself. I am willing, right? I am willing. I am that. I am this. I am that. Who am I? I know who I am, right? I am appreciated. I appreciate myself. I am all about expansion, right? These thoughts that I think are all useful in my life, right? I'm letting go of the story because I'm writing the story, right? I am included. I include myself. I am healing. I am complete, right? I am beloved. I'm going to stop complaining, right? I'm not resisting anything. I belong. I like that. I like that. Okay, I like the play on words. All right, that's just me with my play on words. I love it. Right, so we are going to tune into, we're going to read, right? I hope you like that kind of stuff. I love to read. Maybe if you love to read too, maybe we could do something. I don't know, you know, but anyway. But the Read Out Loud book club. The Read Out Loud book club. All right. Anyways, that's funny. Um, I got kitty cats everywhere. Right. So welcome, right? So this is Magical Fairy Tales, right? An enchanted collection of retold tales, book written by Lucy Cavendish, right? Illustrated by Jasmine Beckett Griffith, who should be mentioned because the illustrations are absolutely beautiful, right? Unrequited love. Is that the story of Rumpelstiltskin? Unrequited? Accept the pain, fulfill your needs in other ways, right? And this could be just to in unrequited love, right? Resisting, right? Look at this stuff, resisting. Face your heart, do not follow blindly. Romeo, right? Idealistic lover, passion, rations, quickly changing moods. Act 1, scene 5. Act 3, scene 5. Act 1, scene 1. So look at what scene 5s, right? 5, 5, which equals 10, which is another 1. So it's 1, 1, 1, right? And then these 3 ones, right? But then you got 3. So like if you think about the numbers and all this kind of stuff, you have combative energies, right? You have a challenge here with the self, right? Resisting something, right? Resisting maybe something is being pacified, right? In your own life, it's something that's darker that you don't want to deal with at this time, but you secretly need help in some kind of way. And so you're eager to take immediate action. And so sometimes it may not always go your way, right? It's the metaphor of love, right? So it's like, being haste. Haste makes waste, right? So it's like you might be overcompensating somewhere in your own life to pacify that which you're unhappy with or something that you're not dealing with that might be idealistic um, or you could be dealing with somebody with changing moods too and stuff like that, and whatever the case may be. But it's just like there's something still kind of like missing, so you have this quest of wanting to do the right thing. Sometimes wanting to do the right thing is to make rights with your wrongs, right? Like, or something like that, or moving in some kind of way like that, right? But there's something that your heart is resisting to see, right? It's a dark deal. You know what I mean? It's like you don't want to make the wrong decision. You don't want to you don't want to go in the incorrect direction. You might be resisting certain kind of transformation, change, or truth, and you're pacifying something that's big in some kind of way, right? Romeo could even be getting in the way, right? You could be Romeo, or you could be dealing with a Romeo, right? Um, Romeo may be pacifying unrequited love, right? Or just the type of energy that you receive, right? Somebody could be resisting seeing something for what it is, right? In some kind of way. um and for this too, this could be somebody like having a crush on you and resisting the urge to tell you, to make a move on you, to ask you out on a date or something like that, like prince, and they're like a secret like prince or princess, you know what I mean? Protection, kindness, undertaking, right? The darker deal of this stuff is like stepping, oh look, somebody could be stepping forward to Rosaline. All right. And somebody else could be, oh, okay, there could be 2 stepping forward. 3. I feel, oh, that could be the dark deal. This could be like a love triangle of some sort. And it doesn't mean that Rosaline was with all 3. It just means that she has suitors. You know what I mean? Anyway, I didn't know we were gonna go there. Right. So it's like, so you gotta conserve, preserve, choose, pick if that is gonna be the oath of the moon, vows of love, you know what I mean? Oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon, that monthly changes in her circle orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable. Right? Act 2, scene 2, right? So 2, 2, right? Which is 4, right? Building something, like having something to celebrate, stability, something stabilizing more, right? Like the art of the covenant or something in that kind of way. She's too fair, too wise, wisely too fair, to merit bliss by making me despair. Oh my goodness, right? So, this is, oh, a kiss. Go on and kiss the girl, right? The sublimation of love, eternal loyalty, noble sacrifice. O churl drunk all and left no friendly drop to help me after I will kiss thy lips. Somebody wants to kiss you, or somebody could be getting into the tantric of kissing their lover, right? Opening up more sexual bonding and chemistry. Like, let's say you've been a couple for a while, and maybe, you're not so much dry, but let's say vanilla, right? And so now maybe you're adding a little bit of tantric and spice into your own life, and like a little bit of like foreplay or seduction, or like being romantic, or being sensual, right? There's sensual play. Like, I love sensual play. Like, sensual, like, to be able to be sensual with someone is to be so like, for me, it turns me on. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you could be working on your sensuality, right? And this expression, and being comfortable in the expression of sensuality, sexuality. It's like being um secure in your own femininity, masculinity, and coming undone and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and sensual and sexual and erotic and um curious with your mate or with yourself, right? Anyway, we're gonna get to the story because I don't know where this is going. It's just like, okay, no, right? Okay. Like, okay, I haven't done one of those in a while. Like the erotica tarot. Let me know if you want me to do it. It doesn't matter. You can let me know. If not, I'll do it when I feel it. But yeah, I do those. Right? Somebody could be, right? Force, loss of freedom, excessive interference, right? Maybe somebody feels like this. Maybe somebody's feels a little maybe stuck in their marriage, right? Or in a relationship, because a lot of people are not married. They're like common law, and they've just been together for a long time or something like that. I don't know the rules. I don't know. But yeah, patience, right? Self-control, right? So whatever the conflict, whatever the arrangement is and stuff like that, definitely go watch my videos. But this one, I had wrote something in the title about power versus force. Like, and this is just getting into your correct pH balance, so to speak, right? Your own balancing act, right? Right. So getting out of certain type of toxicities, right? Bonus, summer hath not such a flower, narcissistic, attractive, noble, sincere. You can be dealing with narcissistic type of behaviors too, or even just seeing it in the patterns of your own conditioning and how that has played into current conditionings you are finding yourself in now that you're maybe waking up from, and you're like, wow, like, how do I get out of this one? Or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be a marriage. It could just be a situation. It could be a job. It could be a friendship. It could be just something that you're dealing with, like a business, a, a, a contract, like something that you started that you just like, oh fuck, like I gotta fulfill my duties here, like in some kind of way. And so you might be seeing what you're dealing with in every kind of way, and it's just like, what can I say? But let's just move on. Because this is gonna open up a whole bunch of stuff, and I can just keep going on because different stuff are gonna keep coming up, of course, right? But that's just fun. So either way, what we're doing is we are going to read Rumpelstiltskin. Okay, this is story number 3. Look at how freaking beautiful. Who remembers the name of Rumpelstiltskin? I mean, who remembers the story of Rumpelstiltskin? Rumpelstiltskin. Okay, but either way, we're gonna get started. So here we go, right? Once, far away from yesterday, there was a young girl, a miller's daughter, who could hear spirits that no one else could hear. Although they listened closely, they heard only the rustling of the wind or the chatter of the birds or the crackling of the fire, yet they did not deny the girl was truly hearing spirits. When the girl grew out of childhood and closer to becoming a woman, the spirits she heard grew louder and began to shake the pots and tip over the cauldron by the fire. And in time, her father and their cat did hear one of the spirits. It would come and knock in each evening just as the sun went down, getting louder and louder the darker the night became. This spirit took to tapping on the table while the girl and her father ate, causing them to spend their dinner from fright at first to pen their dinner from fright at first. Okay. It would knock from above and scratch from below, and even the cat, a fierce mouser who had driven away every rat in their street, hid when the strange spirit came a rapping and a tapping in their mill after dark. The girl was sensitive and an optimist. Blessed with the sunny spirit, she was a realist too. For all that she could hear those the eye could not see. She never exaggerated nor told a falsehood, for she dealt with things just as they were. In this, she was like her mother, whom she still could remember, although the miller's wife, whose fine gold necklace and precious golden ring her daughter always wore, had died before the girl could talk. She was less like her father, who was loud and foolish, yet so good-humored he was loved by all. He was so proud of his daughter and her lovely golden hair and her ability to hear the spirits. He would often boast that she could turn straw into gold. He did not mean that literally, of course. He only meant she could always make something fine and good out of something ordinary and commonplace. Most of the villagers laughed off the miller's boast, knowing him to be vainglorious and loud. They knew his daughter was bright, yes, and could hear spirits, but the miller and his daughter were just as poor as all the rest of their neighbors, and just as likely to go hungry in the wintertime. If the girl could spin gold from straw, they said, she and her father would not have to worry about enough food for the table in the cold time. But somehow the story grew and grew, until one day it reached the ears of the king. Now, simply because a man is a king does not make him wise. He, too, was foolish, but in a different way, to the miller. And when he heard that was a girl who could spin straw into gold, he sent his soldiers to every home in the village until they found the man who had made this claim. When the soldiers found the miller, he told them that yes, he had said his daughter could spin straw into gold, and before the miller could explain what he meant, the soldiers were forcing his daughter into a carriage and driving off with her to the castle. The miller was left to be guarded by two stern soldiers holding shining, sharp swords, who had orders of what they must do when word came from the king. After her jostling ride ended at the castle, the girl was taken before the king, who was fine in his way and not so much older than she. But she could tell, uncaring for anything except the gold about his throat, the gold woven into his clothes, and the gold that filled his coffers, which made his army the largest in the land. Are you the girl they say can spin straw into gold? The king asked. The miller's daughter shook her head. I cannot do that, sire. It was simply my father who said this, as he is proud of me. The king held up a hand for silence. Your father does not want you to spin gold for anyone but him? I would want the same, if I was your father. So you are a faithful daughter and do as you are bid. She stayed silent. You hide your wealth well. She waited for the real question, which she could feel coming. But are you a faithful servant of the crown? She stayed silent, but curtsied slightly to show respect as she looked up at his face from under his lashes, her eyes wary and wise. Good, you will spin for me, for your king. And he and his soldiers led her to a room, high up within a turret of the castle. And within this room lay a great pile of yellow straw, a spinning wheel, a little stool, and a handful of beeswax candles. Here, he said, you will stay here this night, and if you refuse to spin the straw into gold, I will have your head. The girl turned to him, her eyes full of truth. I cannot, sire. It is not within my power. And I shall have your father's head too, if you insist on being a treasonous subject who will not aid their king. She gazed at him. How could he be so stupid, she thought. Your choice, girl. And he left, thinking on what he would do with all the gold the miller's daughter would spend, calculating how many soldiers he would buy, how many ships he would build, and how many gentle lands he would invade with his great golden army. The girl slumped to the floor and looked at the spinning wheel, shaking her head, feeling anger, confusion, and the dreadful certainty that she would most likely die the next day, as would her father. The feelings grew stronger within her until she was unable to contain them, and her emotions spilled out all over from her and traveled far away to the mill where her father was under guard. That night, although no tapping was heard at the mill, as midnight approached and the girl began to weep, she heard a faint rapping in her tower chamber. Ah, she said, Spirit, you found me here. See what has happened? I am to die tomorrow because my father boasted of what I could do. And the king believes the words and not the truth of it. There is no way through this except death. The tapping, which had stopped when the girl spoke, began again. 3 taps on the floor, 3 taps on the ceiling. Then 3 raps at the door. What's that? The miller's daughter wondered. The spirit had never knocked on the door before. Again, 3 raps at the door, louder this time. Shall I let you in? Is that what you mean, spirit? And again, louder still, 3 great raps. Come in then, she said. I might as well know what you are before I die. She screwed shut her eyes, and when she opened them, there stood a little man, brown and tangled like old tree roots. Strange and wonderful, with a crooked back and huge leaf green eyes and hands with the longest fingers she had ever seen. He wore red and emerald, and despite his strange shape, he moved as quick as the mice the cat had caught with ease. No one she could see as the strange being darted about the tower would ever be able to catch this creature. Sir, she said, you entered. You asked me in, he replied, his voice full of old wisdom and crafty ways. I will not be here tomorrow, she said. Good thing, too. This place is awful. No windows, no air, no sky, no trees, no water, and no fire. Just this straw, she said wryly, which I must spin into gold before tomorrow. The bent little man knelt down and stared at her. She answered the question in his eyes by saying, the king has heard I can do this. The boast went straight from my father's mouth to the royal ear, and here I am, condemned by my father's pride to this impossible task. The little man looked at her, his great eyes narrowing with thought. Then it was as if fire danced across his eyes as they widened, alive with sparks of intelligence. I can be of help, he said, his voice all croaky like a frog in a pond. Give me your necklace, he demanded. There must be an exchange, something of yours for this talent of mine, he added when she hesitated. On my life, I hate to give it up, but I know my mother would rather have my father and I alive than dead and me wearing her necklace in the grave. With her heart breaking, the miller's daughter passed him her mother's fine golden necklace, and the little man sat down at the stool and began to spin. As he did, he chanted and muttered and trembled with a power that flowed through his fingers. And she watched, bedazzled, as the room began to shine with the candlelit pile of gold that began to replace the straw. Then he turned to her, saffron flames dancing in his eyes. Sleep now, he said. It will be done. And she did, resting upon the floor, dreaming strange dreams of necklaces and promises, spinning wheels and magic. In the morning, she awoke with a start to a harsh knock at the door. The little man had vanished, but the gold, it was still there. Lustrous and smooth as butter, hard as old wool, and she touched it in wonder. It's real, she said. shocked as the guards entered and the king stood before her. The king's eyes grew large in his narrow face, and she could see him delighting in this turn of events. Now I shall never go home, she thought to herself. He believes I actually can do this. Girl, I am pleased. You are no traitor, but a loyal subject of the crown. He clapped his hands, and she was marched to another chamber, where she was brought food and wine, and permitted to wash her face and hands, while a scolding guard watched to make sure she did not escape. Where would I run to, she thought, seeing how seriously he took his duty. There is only one staircase up and down. As she was escorted back, they passed a room she'd been held in, and a new door was opened, and in she stepped to a different chamber, much larger than the last. She saw the king had wasted no time. More straw. He was ordering, and already it was being carried up to her new prison. More this time. Enough space for the wheel, and the girl, and the little heir. Fill this room to the ceiling. Girl, he said, turning to her, overflowing with greedy excitement, fulfill this task, and I will be pleased. But if you do not, it will be the executioner for you and your father. She said nothing, but looked at the king and begged him silently to become wise and know this was not her doing. But she could not say so, for the gold had been real, and she and her father had been saved for a day, and no one she saw had noticed her mother's necklace was gone. After, the door to the chamber was locked, and she was left alone. The girl lay down upon the straw, creating a little bed out of the great mass of it, and thought upon what she would do, and what could happen when night fell again. Rap, rap, rap! Is that you? She whispered into the dark. She lit a candle, careful not to drop a match on the great piles of straw about her. Come on in, then, sir. She blinked, and there he was. You lived, he said. I did, she replied simply. Thank you. But there's still no escape. I have to spin this great mass into gold by daybreak, or, he made a strange noise, his long finger running across his widened throat. Yes, she said with a shudder. What can you offer me? She looked at her hands and saw her mother's ring. You can take this, she said sadly. On my life, I hate to give it up. But I know my mother would rather have my father and I alive than dead and me wearing her ring in the grave. She pulled it off and held it out to the strange little man. It's yours. Then those strange eyes lit up with fire again. He tucked the ring into his pocket, and under his breath he began to sing and croon and mutter great spells and enchantments, and the fire in his eyes traveled down to his fingers, which sparkled with magic, and his skin began to shine and flicker and dance. He was small, but in that moment he seemed taller than the sky that the miller's daughter had not seen for 2 days. And he settled down upon the stool. Again and again he spun the straw through those quick enchanted fingers into pure heavy gold. She lay down upon the floor and began to dream of eyes and fires, rings and magic. And again, when morning came, the king was pleased. So pleased that he told his advisors this girl was of such value he would marry her himself, and for them to stop their matchmaking with wealthy princesses, at least for the moment. If she can do what I will ask of her next, he announced, I will take her for my queen. Then her talents will be mine alone, and no other king can benefit. And besides, she is commonly, with that hair, the color of gold. The advisors agreed, and the king organized a final test for the girl, who was now craving fresh air, her foolish father, and her own bed in the mill house. She was led to a third chamber, larger yet than the last. One more task, said the king, as she sat before him on the stool. But if you fail this, I will die, she said. Her eyes frank and open. I might, she said. The power to do this is not mine. The king ignored her, choosing to believe the evidence of the gold all about her. If this final place is filled with gold by tomorrow morning, I can go home? She interrupted, unable to help herself from saying what her heart wished for. I will marry you and make you my queen, my golden queen. Her heart froze in her chest, for she did not want to marry this greedy king with his unloving heart, who did not even notice that her mother's ring was gone from her finger. She stayed silent and looked at the floor, and the king thought her odd with the honor, and smiled to himself. She is, he thought, gazing at her, so very pretty and quiet too. totally oblivious, right? Totally oblivious to She stayed silent and looked at the floor, and the king thought her odd with the honor and smiled to himself. She is, he thought, gazing at her, so very pretty and quiet too. He left, and the guards locked the door, and the girl, alone once again, turned to gaze at this last great chamber. It was vast and filled to the very rafters with straw. He must not want to marry me so very much, she said to herself. She sat and wondered what on earth she could do. Even if the strange little man could spin this vast ocean of straw into gold, she had no jewelry left to give him in return for his labors. She had not a coin in her pocket to offer him. Even her clothes were worn and old, and none to clean. Now, too. Finally, night fell, and she heard rap, rap, rap upon the door. She didn't answer. It came again, louder this time. Rap, rap, rap. Again, she looked away. What point was there? She had nothing of gold left to give the little man. Perhaps the king would take pity on her and send her home. He wouldn't kill his golden goose, would he? Even if she didn't fulfill this final command, he would keep her alive, hoping to get more gold, wouldn't he? But she knew the greedy king would kill her just to keep her and her power away from others. Oh no. I'm not remembering the story too much now. At least not this way. Rap, rap, rap. Come in, she said quietly. Why are you sitting here in the dark? The little man asked as he clambered through the straw. Because I have nothing more for you, sir, and therefore I will die. The little man laughed. Do you know what loneliness is? He asked. It is this, surely, she said. It is, and never having had a friend or a family. I suppose that is true, sir. I had a mother who loved me and a father whose pride may have killed us both. But he, too, loves me, as does my cat and the spirits. The little man nodded. You must give me something for the power, for the energy, he said thoughtfully. I will ask you for something a year from this day. Okay, where are we? You must give me something for the power, for the energy, he said thoughtfully. I will ask you for something a year from this day. Knowing me as you do now, would you be willing to give it? Ah. Right, so knowing me as you do now, would you be willing to give it? How can I say when I do not know what it is you will ask of me? Say yes and you will live. The girl said nothing. To live is to hope. Without it, there will be nothing, he said, a flicker of cunning in his leaf-colored eyes. So she agreed, but to what she did not know. And again he chanted and muttered and hopped and twitched, and his hands grew golden and his eyes went the color of jewels on fire. He sat down to his work, and from that spindle fire flew, and gold was made out of the straw for the third and greatest time. That night she had no dream. When the king woke the girl up in the morning, he kissed her on the forehead. My queen, he said, and had the girl taken to a great bedchamber and stripped and washed by maids who looked frightened of her. She is a witch, the girl heard one of the women whisper. The king is dabbling with black magic, said another. Quiet, snapped the third. She will hear you and turn you into gold, she hissed. The girl turned away and allowed them to bathe her and anoint her in the finest of oils and rose and frankincense, bought by her bargain with the little man. She let them dress her body in the softest of garments and a great robe of golden thread, so heavy she could barely walk. At last, her hair was brushed out, and it shone like the golden that was her curse. And she was taken to a great cathedral where her father, stuffed into fine scarlet robes, walked her down a long aisle. And she was watched by the eyes of all those with wealth and power, as she was married to the king who loved the gold he thought she had spun. The new queen never grew accustomed to the castle or to the king, but she did use what power she had to help the people in villages like the one she had come from. She visited the poor and smuggled them gold from the coffers of the king, which barely made a dent in his great wealth. And as the moons passed, she saw her belly begin to swell, and she knew she would bring forth a child. She crooned to her babe in the womb as it grew each day, and she dreamt of a time. I'm remembering now. She dreamt of a time when she could leave the castle and be free of the king, of fine garments, and of her reputation as a witch, or a goddess, or a woman who could spin straw into gold. When the child was born after great and dark labor, she cried with relief at seeing his face, for he was fine and shone with a faint gold shimmer all over. His hair was like sun, and his high, wide forehead shone most of all. She sang to him and held him close and refused to let the wet nurse take him, as she wanted to feed him at her own breast. The king was pleased at how closely his son resembled gold. What is this all he fucking cared about? Like, what the fuck? In fact, he was so pleased with his queen that he left her alone in bed with her son and feasted for 9 days and nights with courtiers and his mistresses in a golden chamber he had built specially to celebrate the birth of his heir. Ugh, 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 gross, grossness. And this is what like modern day dudes like, not all of them. I'm not gonna like, but I'm just saying like this is what's glamorized like in our world. Like this is the stuff like mistresses, courtiers, we're drinking it up, we're living it up. It's disgusting. You're off your pH balance, right? He's off his pH balance. The king assumed his son would be named after him, but the queen could not bear that thought. She felt she would know her son's true name, and at just the right moment it would be revealed. So while the king feasted and the queen watched her son for a sign, unnamed he remained. The days took on their pattern. The queen stayed in her room and walked in her little garden and sang to the child. She wished she could see her father and her cat, but she especially wanted her mother and wished she could rely on her wisdom and kindness. She still could not help touching her throat against which her mother's necklace had once laid, or holding up her hands and seeing the white line marking where her mother's ring had encircled her finger. But her son gave her so much joy that she could feel the empty spaces in her heart slowly filling up with a new kind of love, deeper than any she had ever felt before. And on the 9th day after her son's birth, she carried the child to the tower where her future had been spun, for she had not forgotten that she had made a promise. She sat at the little stool by the spinning wheel and told her son the whole story, explaining that it was 1 year since she had seen that little man, and now it was time to find out what she would be asked to do. She stayed there all day, knowing no one except that little man would think to look for her there. And at nightfall, there came at the door a rap, and another, and another. "Come in," she said. And the little man came in, his body a corkscrew of limbs and leaves and pointed shoes, his enormous forest-filled eyes fixed on her child, one hand reaching out to touch him. "You returned," she said, forcing him to look at her. He glanced once before those eyes returned to her son's face. "May I hold him?" he asked. She could not refuse him, for he had saved her life, and so she passed the child to him. "You remember your promise," he said, great eyes flickering. "Yes, but I don't know what it is I agreed to," she replied. "You will have more children," he said. "This is only the first. Golden, too. Such magic inside him." And she then knew what he wanted, but she would not say so until he had. "A year has passed, and now I have come to take this child." She stared at him, a great rage filling her, the great fierce force that can change lives and rip the world apart when thwarted, the force all wild mothers have within them when their babies are threatened. Oh my goodness. What is like, what? Excuse me? Excuse me. Excuse me. What? I so is he holding the child? Let's go back. Okay. Is he holding the child? All right. So may I hold him? He asked. She could not refuse him, for he had saved her life, and so she passed the child to him. So he's holding him. "You remember your promise," he said, great eyes flickering, right? Like ready for the uppercut, right? "Yes, but I don't know what it is I agreed to," she replied, right? "You will have more children," he said. "This is only the first. Golden, too. Such magic inside him." And she then knew what he wanted, but she would not say so until he had. Okay, so now wild mama bear beast comes out, right? Because he's holding her child, right? Like, I don't know, my heart's pounding. Like, when we're reading these stories and we're thinking about it, like when we're younger and we're kids and stuff, like the detailing, like there's only so much you can imagine, like, and how much intellect your child self has. of not realizing what was being said here, right? Like, yeah, you get the gist of it, but like still the details is like the devil's in the details. Right? She stared at him, a great rage filling her, that great fierce force that can change lives and rip the world apart when thwarted, the force all wild mothers have within them when their babes are threatened. You cannot take a child. He is not a necklace or a ring. I cannot give away my child. I love him. But a promise is a promise, and your word is binding, said the little man. I won't give him up, she said. He is precious to me beyond my life. I have not even given him his name yet. The little man laughed and clapped his strange long hand. I will set you a challenge, he said, smirking with glee. If you can tell me my name, he will stay with you. Your name? Yes, Queen. I have a name, just like you once had, before you became a queen. I did not want this, she said. You are my father and the king. Your demands have shaped me, but I will not have you take from me this child. You have 3 days, the little man said, kissing the child on his glowing brow and handing him back gently to the queen. Tell me my name, then, and I will have no power over you. But you won't find it out, he said with another laugh. Rest assured, though, I will care for your child, and he will be happy with me in the great in-between of fairy, and I will give him a far better name than you ever could. What? The queen held her babe tight and stared at the spinning wheel began to shake, and even the floor began to shake. And as the little man slowly vanished from sight, she held her son tighter and knew she would never let go. The next morning, while all in the castle were fast asleep, she rose in the darkness, dressed in her old clothes, tiptoed past her servants, and crept away from the castle before a single soul could know she was gone. She walked a long, long way while the sun rose, talking to her son, telling him about her old village and the life she had and how much she loved him. When she arrived at the mill, she knocked 3 times and her father opened the door and held her tight. The cat purred as she stroked him while she fed her son and explained to her father her plan. And before the sun was too high in the sky, she gathered together the villagers who were all so grateful at the help she had given them that they wanted only to help her and the little prince. A little man, she explained, wizened and so odd as to be one of the fairy. That is who we are searching for. It may be that only I can see and hear him, but all of us, if you will help me, will go to the woods, to the in-betweens, and we will travel down every path and every trail and peer into every hidden place. Because somehow we must find this little man and learn his name, for he wishes to harm your young prince, and I cannot allow this to happen. The villagers nodded and put down their plows and lay aside their needles and left their milking buckets and searched with their queen, the miller's daughter, all through the forest. And she too walked the paths with her son strapped to her back until she was far away from another human soul. Finally, she reached a place where a great oak, a great ash, and a great thorn tree grew together. And there, within a little hole in the great oak, she saw a light. She climbed through the opening carefully and began to walk down a great tunnel beneath the tree until she came to a cave beneath the earth. And there he was, beside a fire of gold, dancing and singing, as he built a crib of twigs and bird feathers for her child. Merrily the babe I'll make, a little home will brew and bake. Merrily I'll dance and sing, for next day will a changeling bring. Merrily the babe I'll claim, and Rumpelstiltskin is my name. Rumpelstiltskin is my name. The queen, who had almost stopped breathing, covered her son's head with her shawl and waited for the little man to say the rhyme again, to be sure she had the odd name right in her memory. And once he did, she turned quietly and went back into the world, into the forest, and followed the paths and returned to the castle. And 3 days after the little man had told her the price she must pay, she climbed to the tower, sat down on a stool by the spinning wheel, and waited for those telltale raps at the door. It's like, come at me now, bitch. I got you. You think you got me. You think you have the power over me. You thought tricky you should be. You should have been fucking quiet. You know what I'm saying? Instead of freaking dancing. But you know, that's what we do when we're hyping ourselves up too, right? It's like, right? So, but now, like, right? Because you're not taking my baby, period. This mama dragon up in here. No, right? So, rap, rap, rap. Come in, she said. The little man strode in, grinning and bursting with pride and happiness. He stretched out his arms for her babe. Your promise, fair queen. Wait, I have a chance, remember? To name you. He snorted. How ridiculous. Give him to me, queen. I will make him happy and feed him on nectar and sugar wine. Your princeling will no longer be human, but as you know, being human is no great thing. I will name you, she said quietly. 3 chances then, he said, shrugging, already planning what magic he and the babe could create together. Is your name Pointy Toes? She asked, knowing it was not. The little man smiled. Ready to be a fairy father? He moved closer to her, and the babe clapping his hands. It is not, queen. Is your name Twisty Ears? She asked, staring at him and holding her child close. It is not, queen, he said, a great grin breaking out across his strange face. Is your name? She paused, as the man danced and giggled, seeming quite mad with glee. Rumpelstiltskin? She asked. What did you say? He asked, so suddenly still she began to grow afraid. You heard me. I asked if your name is Rumpelstiltskin. At that, the room began to shake, and the little man began to grow red, and he began to cry out loud and gnash his pointy teeth and stamp his long feet upon the floor. And the floor shook, and the queen held her babe closer than ever before as the bricks began to shake loose from the wall, and the spinning wheel toppled over, and the queen fell to the ground, protecting her child. And the little man howled and grew smaller and smaller until in his place there was a whirlwind that tore through the entire castle, upending bookshelves, chasing mice from their holes, ripping curtains from the windows, and even the tiles on the great floor began to fly loose from the floor. And the castle finally began to fall down and down, all about the queen and her child, and she clung to her babe as she heard screams and cries, and then she saw the little man and the whirlwind he had become finally vanished into the might of the storm of his anger. Damn. That's how it be too, right? And the people that be hating on you or thinking they got you won over, and then she stared deep into her son's eyes, hoping that his gaze would be her last moment. And in that second when all seemed lost, she heard his name, clear as sunlight through clean water. And as she whispered her son's name, she smiled and fell into darkness. The queen awoke 3 days later to find herself lying amidst the great golden rubble of the castle. It was her child's cries that brought her back. She tucked him over, hurriedly whispering his name like a plea, and began to weep with relief when his lusty wails told her he was without any harm at all except hunger. A soldier came toward her, picking through the rubble, and lifted her from the wreckage, and she was taken back to the village to her father's mill with her child. She shared his name, and her father smiled and cared for them both while they recovered. The king, she was told, had died, crushed by the gold that had fallen all about him in the feasting room. His was the only dust. What? That's That's crazy. I'm not laughing, but that's crazy. Right? This is the written story, but his was the only death, and all the courtiers, one by one, and the king's advisors all together came to her and told her that she was now their queen in truth and must rule, must decide what to do. And so she did. The queen rebuilt the castle and invested the gold in crops and in a troop of knights who honorably led the army, and she built a school and a hospital, and she never ever married again. What? Who wrote this? Somebody wrote this bitterly. And so the miller's bright and lovely daughter became a great queen, and in time her deeds outshone her reputation as the girl who could spin straw into gold. Her son became a good man with all that was best and bright within her, and he was nothing at all like his father. One day when his mother had lived a very long time, he became the fairest and strongest king that the land had ever seen. But until then, she ruled. All right, definitely a woman. Oh, right, she did. She retold this story. But either way, yeah, so that's the story of Rumpelstiltskin, right? Right, so the history of this tale. Once again, we can thank the very busy brothers Grimm for writing down this tale sometime before 1812. There are so many tales that have similar themes and characters. Tom Tit Tot, a French version, Titty Todd, a Scott take on the tale, and the curiously named Whooptity story from Norway. There's a Hebraic version, a Spanish version, and an Icelandic version too, and this is barely even scratching the surface. All right. Right, so it says, what is Rumpelstiltskin, right? When I was pondering what lay beneath the tale, I discovered that the root name Rumpelstiltskin had several meanings. One was of a kind of popper or puppet, which also broadly translate as goblin. That's what he sounds like to me, or like a troll goblin, right? However, there was also an interesting clue to the little man's nature in the word rumpelgeist or rattle ghost, very similar to the meaning for the word poltergeist. That's interesting too. So the idea formed of the girl being able to hear and see spirits, and it's so common when she reaches mature adolescence to have the activity increase, ultimately allowing Rumpelstiltskin to enter her life in a very real and tangible way, right? So I like to think he is a little out of the box. For me, he remains really hard to define. I see him as being part fairy, part gnome, or for us being very real and yet very other. Right? Anyways, so thank you so much for tapping and tuning in. Till next time. Bye.